Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We got another commentary reaction video, guys, for you guys today. And today we're going to be looking at a Jubilee video. I do want people to note that I do every time I'm doing a video, I do stream it live. So in this one, we're doing some commentary, live reaction to Gen Z leftists versus boomer Democrats. The reason why I think this is interesting in particular is because I do think it's important to note the differences between the two demographics moving forward, considering that the divide that is keeping us from kind of being aligned, especially against this kind of MAGA administration, is very pivotal. I don't think we need to agree on everything. And when I say we, I'm using the proverbial we. I'm not a leftist, nor am I a Democrat. But I do think there are principles that the leftists hold that I respect. There are some things that the Democrats advocate for that I respect. And ultimately, once we get past the MAGA kind of like evilness that's going on, we can start really running the country properly. You know, work together with normal Republicans, Democrats, leftists, if they stop being unhinged. Hopefully, we can all kind of get on the same page.
The Democratic Party should move further left to energize young voters. Can the agreeer step forward?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, all the leftists
I'll agree with
that. All right.
I look at the New York mayoral election as an example. I think Mondani is a great candidate, and the establishment Democratic Party runs people like Cuomo, who has sexual harassment allegations. And
this is not a good example. There is Democrats that are more center that won in that special election as well in Virginia and in, I forget the other state off the top of my head. So no, although I don't dislike Mamdani, the idea that he is he's representative of voters in general is just not true. He's actually doesn't have the highest approval rating.
it's a moderate, and the fact that he won pretty well is a sign that the Democratic Party should move towards the left.
So if Mamdani, for instance, say he was a citizen and he was running for president of the United States, would you guys vote for him?
If he was the nominee, I would vote for him. I'm not sure I would vote for him in the primary.
Why?
Because I looked at
There might be a better Democratic candidate.
Disagree, because I looked for electorability.
I would absolutely vote for him. I would vote for him because he's a star.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we need in our Democratic Party is a star. And I think that.
See, this is what I don't like. What do you mean you would vote for him because he's a star? You should vote for someone based off their policy. The idea of voting people based off like their star power has obviously proved to be very damaging to politics, because people who have star power may not know what politics or how to do politics. Also, Mamdani, again, just because there's a lot of like buzz around him regarding social media does not mean that the rest of the country likes some of his policies. Policies matter more than star power.
He's galvanizing a lot of young voters. Mm-hmm. And I think that for us as older people, it can be a little challenging, but we need to be challenged.
Mm.
It's your generation that got him elected.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely young people who were not used to voting, who wanted him in, and that's what got him elected. And I think for anyone who has a problem with his lack of experience, he's hiring people that have a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. And I think that's in his favor.
Yeah, I think Zoran is Obama-esque. He can, like you said, galvanize the younger generation, which is something we definitely need to work on.
My feeling is if moving further left means health care for people, fixing the immigration problem instead of locking people up, and affordability and those types of things, if that is what moving further left means, I'm all for it.
I don't think that's what it means, though. There's really nothing that the leftists advocate for that generally people on that are like center of Democrat don't agree with. The biggest thing, Lola, if you are gonna meow, I'm gonna have to kick you out of my room. The biggest thing that you can kind of say is the healthcare conversation, the idea of like universal healthcare, and maybe if you want to advocate for more like free schooling. These are things that I think people further left probably advocate for, but ultimately, we would have to see if like some of these ideas can be implemented, because there's still a lot of like uncertainty behind it. I think the biggest hesitation when it comes down to the idea of moving further left is, does that mean you're moving further left socially? So socially, people do not like the leftist rhetoric. Economically, there's no proven track record that economically leftist policies work. So these are like the two pivotal things holding the idea of moving further left back. It's what this Jubilee video seems to me is like a lot of people don't really understand politics, but hearing their perspective is valuable, I would say.
We do understand your point on electorability, but I feel like that doesn't necessarily work. I feel like a lot of times when you think in a more moderate lens as to kind of like quote unquote steal voters, I think that can almost like bite you in the butt just a little bit, because you almost then ostracize like your main core people. And like we saw in New York, it was a lot of galvanization of like the younger people. And even then, he actually did very well with a lot of older generations in New York. So I feel like it's one of those points where
this is the also point, like these people are just using one example to like, okay, Lola, be right back. All right, Lola. Lola, you're being annoying, so you're out. Out of the room. Lola, you're gone. So basically, my point is that using only Mamdani as an example to come up with your entire opinion on the general perception of like politics is just factually incorrect. It just is. It seems like everybody's opinion is Mamdani, and this is similar to the idea of like just looking at Trump and deciding your entire opinion. It's not. I don't dislike Mamdani. There's some things I like, but this mindset is very similar, and it's not smart, nor is it healthy.
you can't operate from a mentality of how can we best play defense, but just how can we best get our point across. And I feel like that is the direction we should be going in, personally.
Normally, I don't try to be motivated by fear, and I'm willing to take risks. But because of MAGA and Trumpism, and the threat is the worst I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's really worse than anything I've experienced, that we have to be really careful, and this is not the time to take risks.
Okay.
What that one black kid said about not only just playing defensive, but playing for something, like messaging for a way out, a way forward, is very pivotal. Like the strategy that Gavin Newsom is using is like very anti-Trump, memeing Trump, which a lot of people resonate with, but you do have to have like the Pete Buttigieg, James Tallarico approach in terms of this is what I will do to help things moving forward. So you need a good combination of both. Mamdani is pretty good at both, to be fair.
This is how I feel. Gavin Newsom is ready to fight. And I want to get behind somebody who's ready to fight.
And
that's who I want to get
To
behind.
tie in all of these points, we need somebody who can communicate. That has been the problem.
Agreed.
That you will have issues that people are talking about, and you don't have candidates or people in power who are actually able to communicate that to everyone.
Right.
So if that means going further left to make that happen, or staying centrist to make that happen, it doesn't matter as long as somebody can communicate. Gavin Newsom is a good communicator.
Check.
Mamdani is a great communicator.
Check. Yeah.
So we need people like that, because the old guard has not been communicating well.
Like Schumer.
They just have
Schumer's
not.
been terrible.
Yeah, a lot of people hate Schumer. I think these are fair points. Communication, I think, is valuable. The idea that you want everybody to be on the same page on the way forward, and not being able to understand that will create a kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding on what is going on. Communication is super valuable. Language is super valuable.
Been terrible.
Can I ask one question real quick? And I'm sorry for talking a lot, but I guess for me, it's kind of a conversation between communication and conviction. Just which one do you guys feel like is more important? Like, this is a question I genuinely have, because I feel like while the optics and the marketing around politics is more important than it's ever been, at the same time, I also want to make sure we don't go for figureheads and kind of just talking heads, you know, making sure we have someone.
This guy's cooking. He's absolutely spot on that we do not fall into that trap. Good job.
Who actually has the conviction to actually make those ideals happen, if you guys want to speak on that.
Yeah, I think conviction is probably the biggest for me. I would argue, and I think a lot of people, I actually work in politics. I work for a Republican, not my views, but obviously. But I think they would argue that J.D. Vance is a...
Wait. You work for a Republican and you're a Gen Z leftist? How does that work? Okay. All right. To be fair, everybody needs a job.
Great communicator, right? But I don't think he has the conviction to do that. So do we need someone on the Democratic side that is a great communicator but doesn't have any conviction? Which I could see both parts. Yeah, Gavin Newsom, I would argue.
Vance is good at talking.
Yeah.
I don't know about communicating.
I don't think JD Vance is that good at talking. I think he knows what to say, but I do. This was actually a very potent point. Matter of fact, I might make this a clip. I really like what this the black kid said and the follow up in terms of the conversation that is being resonated here. The reason why I like it is because ultimately, making that comparison of like JD Vance, which is very potent, I really like it. If an individual that just says things but doesn't have the conviction or doesn't seem like he really believes what he's saying. Perfect example is that JD Vance was one of those people during the first Trump administration where he was calling Trump Hitler. He was saying Trump is evil. He's saying that Trump is just using rhetoric to manipulate people. He was saying all of these, and these are things easy to find. And then a couple of years later, he becomes Donald Trump's, vice president because he has no conviction. He has no morals. He has no values. He just says words. So you don't really buy into what he's saying. So I do like the idea of really figuring out who is people we can rely on, we can trust, that says things that help the people and actually follow through. Because as of right now, it's very clear that MAGA are a bunch of talking heads. They're just evil, immoral people. And I am curious on some of these personalities. A lot of people believe Kamala Harris wasn't the most convicted. They didn't trust her words for whatever reason. Gavin Newsom is a very interesting figure, trying to figure out if he's someone we can get behind, especially because people have like negative feelings on California. And then Mamdani, he seems like a genuinely good person, but even Mamdani has issues from his past, right? There are things he said that were very anti-cop, that were very anti-Israel. And he's definitely moderated a lot in terms of these positions. And it's a question on, now that he has this influence and power, is he going to really follow through the plans he said that he was going to implement for New York City? Really figuring out who people are and what they mean, I think, is valuable because people really do want a leader that is there for them. And I guess the last person we had, Biden, I would say, was someone who said what he meant and did what he said. But obviously, his presidency was shackled from the fact that this man was old. So sometimes he didn't even understand what he was saying. So the last candidate probably was Barack Obama, where he said stuff. He did what he had to do. He seemed like he meant what he said. So this is a very interesting point. Communication versus conviction.
Right. I agree.
There's a big difference. Yeah.
Just because words come out of your mouth doesn't mean you're communicating. He's a puppet, like so many of them. And I think what all of us probably would agree on is that people like Donald Trump and the people that follow him have done more damage to this country in a very short time than in anybody's history. Right. And that's got to end.
I mean, I feel like what I've kind of been hearing from like your guys' side is a lot of fear. I think a lot of the motivation is fear, and I don't think that's any way to exist. You know, I think, yes, I do agree that Trump is a threat, but it's starting to sound like we're like the react to Trump party instead of our own party. And I believe that we as the Democratic Party, need to start acting with whatever we want to do and our own policies. And instead of being like, oh my God, we need to react to Trump, we need to counter this. No, we need to do what we want and start.
That's kind of ignorant talking. If there's an individual that has the potentiality to erode the institutions that make America America, then yes, you have to react to it to prevent the demolition of America. Yes, that's very important, especially since he's cultivated an entire party, one, and people, two. So the reaction makes sense because you have to ensure that you do not lose the people and you also do not lose the institutions too. Now, I will say you do need a good combination of reacting to the things that are trying to destroy everything that America is, as well as having a way forward, an actual productive solution, an actual productive compromise to showcase that, hey, we have plans that actually would help the country and his plans suck. You have to do both. It's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. You're running the fucking country. So yeah, you have to do that.
Or leading that way, just like how they lead. And I feel like that is the way to move forward because fear mongering, people are just tired of that.
So respectfully, I'm not sure that that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I'm not either.
We're not saying anything
We're not
really
talking about
the fear of it.
Well,
we are.
I
Well,
am saying.
Okay.
You're saying that there's an existential threat right now.
No,
But
what
I'm not
saying-
disagreeing with you. I think
Right.
Democrats need to focus on the things that Democrats are known for, which is being about the people, caring for the people. And Democrats need to unhook themselves from corporations and from some other groups that I will.
Yeah, but again, what I'm going to
right
keep
now.
hammering on though is you can have the conviction about it. You can believe that this is what you're going to do or want to do. But if you can't communicate that to the people, then you have lost them.
I think Joe Biden's a great example of that. I
Yes.
mean, not a great communicator, but I would say he had, at least in some points, he had a backbone.
And he got things done.
No, Joe Biden did not have a backbone. I mean, just in
She has no idea what she's talking about. He's done a lot behind the scenes. It's just that he was old and decrepit. If he was younger, Joe Biden would be very clearly perceived as one of the most successful presidents in American history. That's just objectively true. The thing is, he was old, and sometimes it seemed like he was senile, especially with that the debate performance he had. The only reason why she said she's going to say he didn't have a backbone is probably because Israel-Palestine. She seems like a prime Israel-Palestine girl, to be honest. Let me hear it.
general, I think he was terrible for the Democratic Party, and I think he's a perfect example of a centrist. I personally did not find him to be left-leaning at all.
I agree.
Well, he got a lot.
That's just not not true. I mean, he's done a lot of things that, try to help people. To say that he's didn't find him left-leaning at all is kind of crazy. I think some of the most prominent things that you can look at, obviously trying to help with like infrastructure with his bill there. I think a lot of people's issues is that Joe Biden wasn't more I think a lot of people's issues that Joe Biden try to compromise too much, try to work too much with the Republicans. And it's crazy that she's saying that, but also saying like you don't stand for anything, but you got to work together. I know Trump has skewed everybody's mind that you can just take over the country with one party. That's just not how it works at all. And I would say the most left-leaning thing is him trying to not only pause, but get rid of student loan debt. That is not a centrist Democrat thing. Centrist Democrats did not want that. He tried to really help people with student loan debt. That is definitely a way more left-leaning thing. So it's kind of crazy that she's making that declaration, but you know how it is.
Wasn't left a lot done, but he got a lot
I
done.
think he was one of the best presidents in my lifetime.
I mean,
Wow, that's-
Joe
pretty
Biden was the
bad.
best president in your lifetime.
This is the
Statistically, he
difference.
was.
She's obviously one of those ignorant leftists that I do not like, very clearly.
This is the difference of us being.
He was
in
a
our
grandpa, though.
60s and you're in the 20s because we have
Can we ask
40
one-
years
So
of
Joe-
experience. And this is also to the earlier points. We've lived through Reagan, both Bushes, and Trump is far worse than those people. That's why we have more fear. And we've seen Clinton and Obama, and Joe Biden in his term got more done than those past presidents.
So-
It was very impressive because we can see through the long term.
So can you like speak specifically on what you feel he did?
Well, he passed the stimulus bill.
Mm.
He did a lot to fight global warming in terms of the presidential, not bills passed, but
The PACT Act, I
Yeah.
mean,
So we're just gonna like completely.
defended the ACA.
So we're just gonna
term.
completely ignore what he did abroad and in Palestine.
Exactly. There we go. It's very easy to point these people out. And Palestine. Their personalities is Palestine and Israel. Everything else doesn't matter. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care what else she has to say. Because these people don't offer anything productive. It's just like if you don't support the Palestinian cause, then you're basically I bet she didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I bet she was one of those people that didn't. That's why she was like, oh, we can't be anti-Trump. She's probably one of those people that kind of helped Trump get win. I don't respect people like her. to be honest.
Yeah, no, we're not
we
saying
can- we can
his
get
foreign
into it.
policy.
No, I'm just skipping. I'm just not interested anymore. Let's go into the next thing. The wokeness stuff.
Too far and alienates moderate voters.
I'll
Wokeness is
The
wrong.
last group we got.
I like this
think we-
guy.
oh,
He knew policy too, so he definitely is in politics. He knows what he's talking about. And I knew I liked him, and I knew I liked the black guy because they actually really do pay attention to this stuff, which I 100% respect. So okay, these two people are ones that I'm like, these are reasonable leftists. I think he's kind of, I don't know if he's a real leftist, but I'm gonna give it to him though.
I think we don't need moderate voters if we can galvanize the youth or our liberal voters. So Pete, I'm gonna ask you like kind of like what the opinion is for you, like being older, when you see things like, you know, what was it, the Trump ad that was like Kamala Harris is for they, them, I'm for you. I think that really resonated with a lot of moderate voters and a lot of people, even though that's not necessarily true.
To say we don't need moderate voters is just, again, wrong. It's not correct. That's not a correct way of the thing. Most of the country are moderate voters. That's just not how politics works. Although I agree with the fact you need more of the youth, but generally when it comes to elections, the youth tend to lean Democrat. So the Democrats usually had the youth vote. So that's just a normal thing. They have been losing it, especially for like white dudes, but that's just not the answer. The youth is not the answer. The moderate votes are the answer.
But I don't remember in the Kamala's campaign hitting back from that. They kind of just took that. And it really resonated with moderate voters and really galvanized Trump supporters to come out.
Well, if wokeness is marginalized people no longer putting up with racial epithets or discrimination, I'm all for that. But wokeness has been weaponized. Like I saw a video of a white guy wearing dreadlocks getting harassed. And things like that really can be used by people on the right to demonize the left as a cudgel against them. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but it definitely has been weaponized.
It's the kind of PC nature. I do think the wokeness stuff, one definitely gets weaponized by the right. The idea of being woke inherently was not a bad thing because its origins relate to the idea of waking up from the discrimination Black people were suffering from in the 1900s or the 1900s. Oh, it's like 20th century, 1900s. So being woke is understanding that Black people should have rights and they're humans too. And that was the original premise. Understanding that and how it's being used today can often, or how it's got used like before, like the 2016, 2020s era, was relating to the idea of like cancel culture, was relating to the idea of like all men are misogynist, all white people are racist, like this kind of feeling that if you are not a minority, you are the problem, you're the enemy of the people. And that feeling resonated a lot for like white men, which is why they lean into toxic circles like the red pill, which is a bunch of bullshit, and MAGA, which is a bunch of bullshit. So yeah, wokeness definitely had a negative impact. for sure, because people went too far trying to police everybody and cancel them. And it was ridiculous. People should be allowed to live their lives and respect each other as individuals without this kind of insight that if I say something, I'm going to get attacked for it, right? Obviously, there are things that you shouldn't say that I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan when like people use the N word at all. I don't even use it myself. I think it's ridiculous to do that. I'm not a fan of people calling white people the C word. I'm not a fan of people like certain people saying certain things to Jewish people, like that one NBA player. It's like these negative words don't play into anything but being edgy, and they just hurt people in general. But like beyond these negative connotations that have historical context behind them, the idea that you can't say anything about like other kind of more normalized terms really made people feel like they're trying to be pressured to be something that they're not. As he said, the like a white person with dreadlocks. There are people who try to copy the black culture, and then there are people that are just living out their own culture, or maybe they want to embrace the black culture. It just got very toxic and very annoying. So yeah, you can understand why like a lot of moderates were not feeling that type of mindset.
Been used against Democrats and the left.
I feel like this is an interesting conversation because I don't agree with the idea of wokeness having gone too far,
Right.
but I do agree with the idea of it now being at a point where it's a more alienating concept. I think I would like to start with like what the actual definition of, I guess, woke or wokeness is. Like it goes back to the early 1900s from like black revolutionaries and even black artists. The original idea until like 2016.
The real concept of being woke is not incorrect. The way it's used on the internet from like the average, from like extreme people, that is incorrect. So I guess it depends on like what you're referring to.
The idea of wokeness was just surrounded around this idea of consciousness within marginalized people. And
someone said, to be honest, saying things like the N-word, C-word, even in neutral context, same from all the language. I know it's the only language that does it. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of it. There's too many words in the English language for using terms like that. That's just me. But certain cultures are willing to normalize it to kind of take the power back from the word, and I understand that too. I just don't want to have it a part of my vocabulary because it just creates too many like issues. That's just my thing. There's other words I can use.
Just like being aware of the systems in place and
Which we should all be.
Exactly.
So,
but I feel like it's gotten to a point today, and not on the wokeness topic, but more so on the alienation side, to where the stakes are very dire. It's very in your face, to where I think it goes to what you're saying, to where I personally don't believe there's room for moderation. I think in a perfect government system or in a perfect American society, there would be that room to kind of leave it up to, well, I can go with this issue or I can go with this. But I think things becoming as polarizing as they are, and with the stakes, like people are getting picked up off the street. Like that's not a thing that's just like, it's like genuinely happening. Like there are college students getting kidnapped and sent to El Salvador. So I think it's one of those things where the point and the stakes are getting so high to where there's no room for that. So people who are moderate are going to feel alienated both by the right and by the left. So then it just becomes a question of strategy and how do you kind of appeal to those people without, I guess, selling out the movement. And I'm curious about you.
I mean, I just think the whole woke thing just completely grinds my gears. Because, I mean, you referenced the idea that woke is something that got co-opted from the black, really church. Woke came out of church, stay woke, let him sleep. Meaning you're not aware of what's going on among our people.
Not even normalized when someone is talking about a word, in my opinion, and not calling someone that censoring never made sense. I'm not sure what you mean.
And to let, white liberals and white conservatives, because the liberals did it too, y'all are too woke because, you want rights for trans people. Y'all are too woke because you want him, her. And at the end of the day, we forgot that, again, there are people down at the bottom rung who don't have health care, who cannot eat, who cannot find a place to sleep, who cannot find decent housing. And to let the conservative, what do you call those people, moderates and conservatives, run away with this idea?
No, do not conflate conservatives with moderates. Do not do that. Again, that's a problem. Moderates are just your average person who don't really know a lot, but just have like general vibes on like some of these issues. Conservatives are like right-leaning and they have conservative values. Do not conflate.
I'm shutting it down every time. You don't even know what the woke is. It really just incenses me that we got hung up about this culture stuff. Again, he, her, them, all that. There's 1% of the population that is trans. And yes, they should have health care. They should have decent places to sleep. They should be able to eat just like all the rest of us.
You're right. And to me, the term moderate is such a useless term.
Yes.
You're either for something or you're against it. What's a moderate? What does that mean? It means you don't.
Okay, again, we're attacking the wrong people. Moderates are just people that really have no political knowledge or political like not influence, political what's the word I'm thinking of? Leverage, political cachet. They're just normal Americans. Most people don't give a fuck about all this politics stuff. Now we kind of have to because Trump is insane, but like most people don't. So saying that these people don't stand for anything is wrong. They stand for things that help the people that they care about and their world and their values. But that doesn't mean that they want to prescribe to a political identity, especially if they believe that both sides are not really for them. A lot of this binary thinking of politics, I think just gets in the way. Ultimately, I think a lot of the politics is really just, do you support Trump or not? And then once you go beyond that, a lot of us want the same thing. Higher wages, better health care, lower rents, normal stuff.
I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, and you don't have to be for the fact that I want to be called they. You don't have to be. Why are we getting hung up on that?
Right. It doesn't affect me. Right.
Yeah, it's because it's become a poison pill. You know, that term is a poison pill. And since it is now, and we continue harping on it, it is something that if we're going to use the word moderate, whatever that means, it's hard for anybody to find themselves in the position that you're saying, where everybody who's down, who's at the bottom, wondering when they're going to get their health care, when they're going to, and now we're still talking about this.
It becomes a semantic issue.
Yes,
They use
it's the thing that
It's not even semantics. If like, it is actually semantics. I'll take that back. Hey, you're cooking. You're cooking. What's your name? I don't remember. It is semantics because a lot of people use the term woke wrong and they're applying it to things that are not woke to demonize them. You're correct. It is semantics, but it's semantics that is important to distinguish because of how it's being weaponized. That's how I'm going to phrase it.
so in the way.
Take it back. I'm woke as
take it
hell,
back.
and I'm
And they
gonna
did that on
continue
purpose.
to
Yeah,
get more and
on
more
purpose.
woke. Every
Adam,
time I find
arguing
some
over language,
injustice.
not arguing over issues.
Exactly.
Well, wokeness has been used by cynical politicians to hide their agenda. You have rich conservatives who want to lower taxes, have a smaller government, but they know their policies aren't popular. So they create these social justice issues to manipulate people who wouldn't normally vote for their policies, to get them to vote for them, to say, you need me to protect you from those
Yeah,
people.
the boogeyman.
I feel like it becomes very
so
interesting, especially when you look at kind of, I guess, the culture created by MAGA and like that whole thing. The people he disenfranchises the most are his bigger voter base. You know, it's poor, white, relatively undereducated like people. And it's one of those things to where if you can get people so mad at this boogeyman, because most of these towns are predominantly white, heterosexual, like they don't have black people.
That's the boogeyman.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just the concept. And most of them haven't even really, there's so many people who haven't even met black people who are scared of us. And it's so crazy.
Both of them are making extremely valid and valuable and correct points. That's exactly what is happening. A bunch of rich white dudes on the MAGA side that want to create an enemy for you. And we know this strategy works, and I'm going to be extreme with it because this is the most prominent example that people understand. One of the best ways that Hitler was able to do what he did and convince Germany that their way of life is wrong because the enemy is this group of people. This is exactly what is happening. This is what the MAGA method is. The enemy are trans people. The enemy are illegal immigrants. The enemy are Democrats. They point you in a direction so you're not paying attention to how they're puppeteering you and screwing you over and enriching their own pockets. That is exactly correct. That is exactly what is going on. This is why I do not respect ignorance and stupidity, especially from people who are supposed to be informed in politics, but I sympathize with those people who just want a better life and thought this way, but ultimately were wrong for thinking that way.
In this
Like,
country.
In
yes.
this country. And it's so ridiculous because that's their biggest voter base. And when you look at the way in which he's kind of created this idea and like this fear and this culture of hate, it's so enticing to them because my life is horrible because I'm white. and all of this tax money is going to black people on welfare or going to schools in Chicago or whatever that looks like to them. And they don't even realize that their schools are just as underfunded. Like, is it Louisiana or Kentucky that's like at the bottom of education? But then both are like 80% for Trump. And it's just like the craziest thing to see, because these people don't care about you and they're not helping you in any type of way, but they've genuinely created this culture in where you feel so seen and heard because
My brother here is informed. He understands. Maybe the leftists are coming around. Maybe they are starting to use their brain. I don't know. These two back here, I'm not so sure, but this guy's cooking.
Goes to their emotional side, and it's a complete attack on a culture or an idea of people that is false, and it's so fascinating.
That's the cult.
Because it's a simple
Exactly.
idea. I have to find somebody to blame.
Right.
Can the disagree step forward?
I personally
All
think
right,
we
here
all
we
need
go.
to be more awake. I think the more awake that we can be, the better. The more woke we can be, the better. Do I think it has been co-opted? Yes. I think certain people want to paint a culture that being woke is bad to get us to stop and to push against people becoming more educated and learning more and waking up to the system and the forces that have us here. I think being woke is great. I think everyone needs to wake up.
Sure, but does that alienate the moderate voter?
I personally don't care about the moderate voter.
And here we go. This is the wrong with these type of leftists. They are killing voting opportunity. That's why I've heard this before, and I agree with it ultimately. People like her will never win elections. They just won't. They live in this fantasy land that they are just morally superior to everybody else. I just don't respect anything like these type of people. And this is what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, hey, man, just because I hate MAGA, they're the evil ones right now, doesn't mean that I don't hate other people on the left. I hate leftists like this as well.
Like James Baldwin said, the moderates, Republicans, moderate, Democrats, Tweedledee, Tweedledum.
Let me ask you this.
That's a fucking stupid point. That was a ridiculous point. She's comparing Republicans, moderates, and Democrats. She just like anybody that does not agree with me, you're a piece of shit. Basically. Like, Jesus Christ.
Half the country leans to the right. In your vision for America, what should happen to those people?
I believe that as a society, we need to get educated, okay? And I believe that those people are entitled to an education and they need to
Should they
learn.
be sent to re-education camps?
No. What?
No.
Who said that? Should anyone be sent to re-education camps?
That's what happened in the left-wing revolutions in China.
Okay, so what I believe needs to occur is, first of all, our textbooks need to be accurate.
Yes.
The textbooks need to describe the violence that was inflicted upon Black people, upon Native Americans.
Okay. But you didn't answer his question. So you didn't answer his question. Okay, even let's say we do with everything you want to do. There's still Republicans right now that do not have that education. What do we do with them? You can't force them to educate. I really wonder if she's going to answer this question. I don't think she is.
On anyone who was not white. We need to go deep into that and become
Okay.
awakened
All white
to
people suck.
really what has happened to people of color. After we
do that, can we talk about what happened to like other people that were not traditionally white, but were also ostracized as well? Can we talk about them too, or just people of color?
realize that, okay, then I believe people will be a lot more empathetic and a lot more compassionate.
Right,
And we
people
can
think like
then
you.
move forward on how we can make things right.
She did not answer the fucking question at all. She didn't answer it all. At all. Okay.
And how capitalism has inflicted a lot of that violence, and how we as Americans.
She watches Hassan. She watches Hassan Piker. Oh, this is the big one, right? I'm guessing this is the one that she's gonna crash out. Supporting Israel is incompatible with progressive values. This is the big one.
Supporting Israel is incompatible with progressive values.
I'll say for me, when it comes to what Israel is doing right now, I think what Israel has done ever since Trump basically was guaranteed to win the election, I think it's very clear. It's been extremely unhinged for sure. No doubt about that. I have not defended a single thing they've done ever since the first ceasefire that happened in the beginning of the year, or that happened in the beginning of last year. I'll be honest, I don't really want to hear her speak, but I'm gonna.
So
I
do you
guess-
guys think that the Democratic Party should support Israel?
I think it's a question of what exactly does support mean and what does that look like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a really
Exactly. I think this is a very tricky one because
it's a nuanced question.
I know my personal beliefs in regarding to that entire situation. I have family that was born into a colonial situation. I'm very anti-colonization.
I feel like I'm gonna like his take. I think this is gonna be an actual thought-provoking, nuanced take, and I'm here to listen to you. I respect like people who think things through, don't have this kind of totality opinion. You're evil, you're good, barring some examples.
Which is why, in regards to the prompt, I think supporting Israel is anti-progressive values because you can't be a progressive and be for one of the youngest colonial projects in world history. Like that in and of itself does not make sense. But I also do agree with
nature is
that.
incompatible.
Exactly. By nature is incompatible, but also my own personal beliefs.
Mhm.
When you look at a lot of, like, Israel was almost in Ethiopia. You know what I mean? Like when you look at a lot of the history of that situation, it's a very funny spot. And not funny in like a go way. You know?
But I think what people miss today is Israel is not Benjamin Netanyahu. People get confused with Benjamin Netanyahu and his small far-right party and the rest of the people who are living in Israel.
The thing is, people conflate war crimes with existence. I think while the existence of Israel is something that, from a past standpoint, I would disagree with, the fact is that it does exist today. What we can do, however, is prevent the war crimes that are continuing to persist in Gaza and against the Palestinian people.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Israel existing is, honestly, I don't have a strong opinion. If they were able to make it exist, they were able to make it exist. I do think Jewish people should. I understand why they wanted a place to like live because the entire world hated them and they were getting fucking killed by the millions. Would I go like create your own country? Probably not. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I'm like indifferent, but I understand why they did it for sure.
Well, I do think that the two-nation solution is probably the two-state solution is the most feasible and practical thing to do because Israel exists and unfortunately there's not even enough Palestinians to occupy Palestine as it previously was, which is a result of a genocide. So it's a very sad spot to see that we kind of have to exist with the fact that that's something happening and that has happened. But
well, and it happened 75 years ago, and people need to be aware of history.
Like people think it just
when it
started
happened,
October
it's like all the nations around there. They didn't accept the Palestinians.
Mm.
They didn't want anything to do with them.
No, they did. Jordan accepted the Palestinians.
Most of them.
No, most of them did not by any means. They did not want to bring the Palestinians in. That's just not true at all. Now they joined the Palestinian project to try to fight Israel in a big war. They lost, and a lot of them started signing treaties with Israel after they lost, accepting Israel's existence.
I'm just going to put my cards on the table here. I think Israel should not exist. I think it is going against United Nations policies, and I think Israel is a terrorist state. And Israel is a settler colonialist project that has basically done what the United States did to the Native Americans and exactly what happened in South Africa. Israel's existence is illegal. It's white supremacy, and that's personally what I believe. What should happen to the people that currently live in Israel? I think.
Of course you do. Like everything, she's the cliche leftist that really has. It's no different. And I'm sorry to compare you to this idea that all these leftists have like the same talking points is no different than like our issues with MAGA just being like a monolith of like the same talking points. And I would say at the very least, leftists kind of look into it. I think, but I don't know. I understand because like leftists work based off like their emotions. So once they kind of feel a way about something, everything they do moving forward is in correspondence with that feeling. And I understand that, but it does kind of get in the way and doesn't really paint the full picture of what is going on regarding Israel and Palestine and their complicated history. There's criticisms to be made from both sides with like how Israel operated or like the original Jewish people and then the original Palestinians. It's just, but once you feel like Israel bad, everything you're going to do is going to look at it on a biased lens of Israel bad. When I read a book on it, because I had to do this for a project, I read a book on some guy outlining the Palestinian perspective and some guy outlining the Israel perspective. And I read both sides in this one book. And my conclusion came pretty clearly. It's like, yeah, both of them had issues, and there is like very terrible components from both sides. And what ended up happening is that regardless of the issues that both had and legitimate claims both had, Israel was the one who won. That's what happened.
I think that they should be living in a democracy called Palestine.
So would you be
Well, they're
for?
living in a democracy called Israel.
So Israel's
whether
not
you
a
accept it or
democracy.
not.
Israel's not a democracy. Israel is a theocracy. It has a mandated religion, and people that do not believe in that religion.
It doesn't have a mandated religion. She's just making stuff up. She's just misinformed. There's a lot of Muslims that live in Israel. You don't have to be Jewish to live in Israel. That's just not true.
Religion are oppressed, brutalized, and killed.
Can I ask you a question?
That's
Sure.
just not true
What would
either.
the reinstation of Palestine look like? Because now all of the previously Israeli people, or the Israeli people, would then be Palestinian. What exactly would that look like from a practical lens? Like, what's
So
like your 5
It can, you know what? Honestly,
She's not going to answer the question like she didn't answer the other question. In reality, she just wants all of them to get killed. She's like an Assault Piker fan. She just wants them all to die. Like these people, bro, they're just so ridiculous.
it can be named whatever it wants to be named, right? Whatever the country desires to be named, what needs to occur, just like any other nation state, people should be able to move freely. Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank.
They can't. Now, obviously, there's a lot of criticism you can have to like the West Bank settlers, of course, in terms of like buying up land, but you can't allow that to happen if you feel like there's a threat of a terrorist group at your front door. You can't allow that to happen. Now, we'll see how this kind of works out. We'll see if they can create this level of peace and cooperation where they feel like their next door neighbor is not going to kill them. Like it's the similar premise to like North Korea and South Korea, right? They have a huge militarized wall because of fear that the one side is going to go on the other side and fuck them up. Now, the difference here is Israel has all the influence and power, so of course the Palestinians cannot create a state. So, I mean, if you want a North Korea, South Korea situation, sure, but will they be able to negotiate to like a level of like a stalemate of like military might? Do you want a military that much power on your next door neighbor? It worked for North Korea and South Korea, but like a whole war happened. So
Be able to leave their houses and go to Jerusalem if they desire to. They should be able to move around the entirety of this nation, just like any other nation, if they
Sounds
please.
good.
And that is currently not the case. Israel is not.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Has she said anything? Has this girl right here said a single word? I haven't heard a single thing coming from her mouth. I'm done
Like,
hearing this woman
It's run
talk.
by a bunch of
People in general is disgusting.
Well, when you say it's not a democracy, that's no different than the United States. We're also run by a bunch of criminals. We're not a democracy anymore either.
no,
we can't do what we want.
So what I'm
In Washington
saying
and making
though
calls.
is in Israel's constitution, essentially the equivalent of the constitution, it talks about Jewish supremacy, and it talks about
What is she talking about? Oh, she's talking about Zionism, Jewish supremacy. Okay, I think I know what she's referring to, and that begs the question of like, do you want not wanting the majority of the population? I've had this conversation before. The issue of like, in order for Israel to be an Israeli state, it's still a democracy, but there are certain controls that they have in there. And I don't agree with this, but these are just true. And one of the conversations about Israel is whether or not allowing more Palestinians would kind of skew the Jewish Muslim population. And if there's more Muslims than Jewish people, would this still be a Jewish state? I'm all for the idea of like not allowing, like negotiating Israel not being a Jewish state. I'm all for that. I think we have reached a point, even though there's a growing sentiment of like anti-Jewish behavior that's going on. That's disgusting. I think that recently some guys just killed a couple of like Jewish people unprovoked. It was disgusting behavior. I'm all for the idea of like, and I don't have any say in it, but like the idea of a state being ran by religion, I just don't agree with. But we do need like and make sure that we're protecting like Jewish people. Like this whole attacking Jewish people stuff has been unhinged by Nazis on the right and by like Nazis on the left. I'm not gonna lie, you guys are the same people.
the eradication of Palestinian people. And so if that is the
That's not true. They are not. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we want to kill Palestinian people. She made that up. She's just lying.
yes, we have not killed by Israel what killed them, and it's all even before have zero. And look at the prisons until this,
which is
before
that
they
happens.
And now we are where we are today.
I think you're missing how it originally started, which is immigrants from Western Europe after the Holocaust needed someplace to go, and they wound up.
It started before. It started way before the Holocaust with Theodor Herzl. He was the one who started writing about it, and originally they had plans to go to Argentina, and then later it was decided, okay, well the British have already colonized the state of Palestine. And so because of negotiations with the British, that then went and occurred, and it allowed the West to have a Western imperialist country in the middle.
I'm pretty sure there was parts of it that was just sold to Israel. Oh, she thinks that the West kind of like made the sent these Jewish people for white supremacy to Israel? Or was it that their homeland is in Israel, they wanted a place to live, they bought it out, and then they had territory there because there was not land for anybody, especially with the Ottoman Turkish Empire ending?
Of the Middle East, where they could then control certain trades agreements, whatever.
But no one
just making shit up. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just making a lot of it up.
in the West called it that. They called it a democracy, and for the longest time, before the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu, people thought of it as a democracy, and there are a lot of presidents who've tried to get a two-state solution, which is what they need.
And the West also thought slavery was okay, and that continued.
Right, based. I don't know what we're talking about. I'm curious to see what the other people say. Okay, I'm here for it.
To another, first off, sorry for your loss, but Israel is not.
Oh, someone died?
First off, sorry for your loss, but Israel is not an example.
Oh, someone died? Oh, if someone died in her family, then I understand 100% why her emotions are rated. Doesn't justify a lot of the things she's saying that's wrong, but I understand where the emotions come from 100%. Like 100%. 100%. I don't know if someone died or not. I'm not going to go find it. But
well, of colonialism. Colonialism is when an outside power comes in to another territory to exploit the natural resources of that area.
This is a good conversation. The only people who really just like being fiery is this one chick right here. Other than that, I'm sorry. I was just looking at it. She, even though she hasn't said anything, she looked good right here. No doubt about it. Other than that, there's been a lot of good conversations. Other than her fieriness, there's been a lot of good conversations.
Exactly what happened in Palestine.
To send back to the homeland at the expense of the indigenous people. Israel is an example of indigenous people returning to their homeland. There's been Jews living in that area for thousands of years.
And they lived alongside the Palestinians with no issue.
Yes, that's true. But the Zionist movement was opposed by the British colonialists. It was an indigenous movement as a result of the discrimination Jews faced during the Holocaust.
Britain went and they decided to create what is today Palestine. They drew it out in, I believe it was 1914. After that, the British were in control of Palestine, correct? Which was settler colonialism. Yes? Which was colonialism at the time.
The British settler colonialism and the other powers, when they carved up Saudi Arabia and Jordan, all those countries, and installed monarchies. That was
colonial. Thank you. Okay. So then after that, what began happening was people began migrating.
Well, it's not really colonialism, right? People were sent there. There was already people there because of like the end of the initial empire. Like I said, the Ottoman Turkish, from my understanding. And then eventually the British got control of it. So they had control of this land. And then there's obviously Israel. People started moving over there. And Israel did not occupy it for the British. They just wanted the land, and they made a deal with the British. So like making a deal with a country that owns the land is not and occupying the land for the mother country. There's completely distinct differences. You know, that you can sell land. It's like the same thing as like when the French sold Louisiana to America, right? That you wouldn't, I guess they might call, I guess the leftists might call that whole situation colonialism, but it's just not the same. Like definitionally, it's not the same.
Into what is now called today Israel, right? And
yes, but that was opposed by the British authorities.
In the beginning, perhaps. Then after that, okay, at one point it became opposed because the Palestinians began revolting.
So you're saying supporting Israel is compatible with progressive values. So can you share why?
Yes. Now, I'm not supporting the Benjamin Netanyahu government. He's a horrible person. But the concept of Israel itself, it's a beacon. It's one of the few democracies in that region, and compared to the other countries in that region. I've studied Jewish history, the Holocaust. Jews have put up so much oppression throughout their history. There's been Jews living in that part of the country, in that part of the world for thousands of years. 2,000 years ago, there was a Jewish nation there. They were all kicked out. When I see Jewish people returning to their indigenous territory, I don't see it as colonialism. I think that you can make a good case for the concept of Israel after the Holocaust. I think the idea of a Jewish homeland is a good thing, and it's compatible with progressive values to support a Jewish homeland.
This is another kind of like emotional take that I understand. I just don't totally agree with, which is why I probably in line with now that we're kind of post like Jewish suppression, even though there's a lot of anti-Semitism that exists. I think you can argue that its growing sentiment is also in part due to the Israel-Palestinian conflict being reignited on October 7th. So you can say that, but generally there's not an outright oppression. So making Israel, like having a state ran, especially a democratic state ran by a religion, I'm probably just never going to be in favor for it, because I think there's a weird situation where the religion overcomes the principles of democracy, and I think that is a bit incompatible. But the emotional resonance there should very much relate to progressive values of people who've been oppressed that need a place for themselves and acquiring the place that they have for themselves. I mean, if she went out of her way to talk about how, you know, we talk about the horrors that happened in the past for people of color, which is true for Native Americans, for Black people, for a lot of different types of people. And they would deserve some type of, some people would say reparations. I'm not a reparations guy, but some people would. So some type of recompense, what's the word? There's a word that starts with R-E, would probably be somewhat deserved in the situation for people who've been oppressed for so long. You can understand why that would be very similar to like progressive thinking. It's just in this situation, Israel has finally acquired the power after being oppressed for so long, and now people are deeming them the oppressors. So this is it ends up being like a cycle. Oftentimes, once you win, you're the oppressor. Every single time, the moment you win the conflict, you're the oppressor of someone else. That's typically how it works.
Hey, man, this is a really, really fraught subject. And it's very, very convoluted. And depending on how much you know, it's very hard to form an opinion. So I'm just going to go with the progressive side of things, which I understand. If you have progressive values, you are for fairness. You are for figuring out solutions outside of the box that benefit people. And so in the current situation, what I feel like the United States is doing is supporting Israeli leadership right now. Obviously, Israel is our ally and has been our ally for a long time. So my disagreeing with the statement is that support for Israel has to come within progressive values, or else the situation is going to continue as it is right now.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah, me too.
How is supporting Israel?
Well, we support Israel,
but is
right
Israel
now
not currently?
Israel's our ally, and currently the United States supports Israel. So in order,
you've been talking the entire time. You don't shut up. There's a problem. I just don't like her. I don't like her at all. I wish other people would talk. I want to talk to this guy more. I want to understand his frame of thing. I think we can really reach a very interesting impasse, or a very interesting kind of compromise in like his perception of it being like a colonial project. She just be yapping. She be yapping. She's a Hassan Pike reviewer.
order to change the situation into a progressive solution, we have to do something that also supports Israel.
Israel
and
not
supports
the proponent of a current genocide against?
Yeah, I agree.
So why would we support Israel? Why are we giving money
because
so they can continue to bomb and kill
That's
kids?
just like if your kid's a crackhead. You supported them before they were one because they were your kid. You support them now while they're a crackhead, and you're trying to figure out a progressive solution so that they're not.
That's actually a really good analogy. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it. even if Israel's doing bad things, based off what she said, I kind of fuck with it. I'm not gonna lie, I might make a clip out of that. Even if you have issues with what Israel's doing now, which I do think is very fair, the idea of Israel being a democratic nation there, that proponent that is there for like fairness and abiding by these principles and being our ally and us having influence to make sure that they're abiding by these important things, especially before like October 7th, I think a lot of people would say that, you know, they definitely weren't as unhinged as they are now. So we want to keep on making sure, since we have this close relationship, because they consider this some sort of democracy, in order for them to continue following those progressive values, you have to stay with that relationship. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can just like, oh, here you go, keep on doing the crack, but you do have to keep on helping them to get them out of the situation that they are currently in. I kind of rock with it. I don't think I'm gonna make that to a clip, but I respect the
Not a
The
crackhead
solution
anymore.
to helping your kid who's a crackhead is to give them more and more and more and more drugs so they can keep getting
I don't
high.
thi- I don't
That's
agree
exactly
with
what we're
that.
doing
So
with
that
Israel.
would be
We're
a
giving them more
progressive
and more
solution.
and more weapons.
The point is that obviously you have to draw a line in the sand and say, this is what we're going to do now to solve this problem. And that's what the country has not done. The support for Israel needs to change. Clearly, it's not going to be withdrawn. It's not going to be withdrawn. That's a fairy tale. It needs to
It's not a fairy
change.
tale.
The
support needs to change, not withdraw. She's making really good points. What she's saying is that we shouldn't just go do whatever you want, I give up on you, Israel. We should change how we're supporting them, going like, hey, if you don't stop this, we're removing funding, we're removing the weaponry, we're removing our trade agreements, we're removing our intelligence operations in Israel. Change how we're dealing with them, but we still want them as an ally. We still want them to be a democratic nation. We still want them to be a nation that advocates for like Western principles, that advocate for the progressive values that America is supposed to advocate for, regardless of how you feel about the current Israel administration and the current MAGA administration. Generally, the idea is that we're supposed to be democratic, progressive nations, right? And move towards more democratic principles. She's making extremely potent points. I really like the analogy. Regardless if you agree with like everything that Israel's done, the analogy is really good.
It is a fairy tale. It has not happened.
We withdrew from supporting certain countries and we stopped giving them aid and human rights. So how is it that hard to believe that
Like who? Who's you referring to?
we can stop giving Israel military?
Because Israel's different, isn't it?
It's not different.
It's like Russia. I mean, come on, we supported them. I think it was World War I, right? We worked with them too.
Yeah.
World War II.
But Russia's not a democratic nation. That's not a good example.
Decades ago.
And
yeah, Israel's
and now
a
we
different
don't
fish.
support them,
It's
right?
not a different fish.
So my only real response to this is I'm sitting here absorbing,
I'm glad.
Yeah.
you know, because there's a lot that I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should probably do that. You just talk all the time and think you're right. To be fair, I think I'm right all the time. But when I'm engaging in a fruitful conversation, I do a lot of listening and I try to understand. She just thinks she's morally superior.
I'm sitting here absorbing,
I'm glad.
you know, because there's a lot that I don't know.
The other girl
And
just
I'd
doesn't
rather
talk.
sit and listen
So the other girls
to all
talk
the different
before.
sides of it. Everything you're saying is true. Everything I'm hearing is true. What do we do about it? I don't know. I don't really have a solution for that. This has been a problem. This is a biblical problem, if you believe in that. I don't want to interject something that I don't have as much information on. So listening in all of these things is what's most important. I've got to listen to be
I
able to
respect
form
them
an
listening,
opinion
though.
when other people have more information than I do.
It is a complex
Identity politics divides the Democratic
problem.
Party
You know how
more
to
than
fix
it unites it.
is like half of the issue.
I would say identity politics plays a huge role.
Identity politics divides Democratic Party more than it unites it. Oh my God, is she finally gonna have a base take?
When we
Here we
talk
go.
about DEI, right? For example, let's talk about Obama. He became president, and then I'd have conversations with Democrats about their racism, frankly. And I would hear, well, we can't be racist. We voted for Obama as president. And that to me is a problem. Just because, you have someone of that identity representing a certain cause does not mean that they don't have racist undertones and that the entire party was kind of built on racism.
Yeah, who was the senator? Robert Byrd, right? Senator Byrd was apparently Joe Biden's mentor. And he was one of the most racist members. I think he was a KKK member. And then he voted for Obama. That doesn't make him any less racist because he voted for Obama.
So
But that's not identity politics. And I agree. There are like there are like hidden racist Democrats. I agree to that. There's also like people who are left leaning, like leftists, that think that they advocate for things that are pro black, but in reality just want to play moral justice warrior. I also agree with that. A lot of weird things that go on to the idea of like advocating for certain people, certain marginalized groups. But your example, how's that identity politics? What makes it identity politics? Just because you're racist or not racist? I don't get.
Would you guys
that.
say you're pro or against identity politics, and then I'll kind of give my spiel?
Yeah, I think it can be used to a benefit for certain people, but it shouldn't be your whole campaign. Like I think Hillary Clinton's a good example of that. Is how she
identity politics divides the Democratic Party more than it unites it. Identity politics. I think identity politics has really no value. The idea of like utilizing identity is really just saying this identity matters more to me versus other identities, and that just who does that help? It doesn't help anybody. There's no justification for that. You should be for the people, and America is a people of many different types, and you should have solutions for all types of people, not just certain types of people. That's identity politics.
She ran on that she was a woman, and that I will say she was way more experienced than Donald Trump, but a lot of her campaign that year was breaking that highest class ceiling, right? So that shouldn't be your whole focus on your campaign.
Oh, when it comes to classism, when it comes to different classes of people, that might be the only identity politics that I'm willing to engage with. I am very black pilled when it comes to the wealth divide. I am very black pilled. That's the only identity that I'm willing to engage in. I don't think it counts. I'm going to cheat though. Other than that, I think it's okay.
Your identity, but I think in certain aspects, like I think Kamala Harris did a good job of that.
I feel like for me, I feel like it's more divisive than it is unifying, is simply for the fact in which I think oftentimes
I think this guy's making a YouTube video of him being secret MAGA. There's something about this guy. There's something about this guy I don't fully trust. I don't fully trust this guy right here. This dude, he knows too much. He knows too much. I don't know.
Campaign that year was breaking that highest class.
What if he's doing a video pretending that I'm a leftist on Jubilee? I feel like that video is gonna drop very soon.
Ceiling, right? So that shouldn't be your whole focus on your campaign, your identity, but I think in certain aspects, like I think Kamala Harris did a good job of that.
I feel like for me, I feel like it's more divisive than it is unifying, is simply for the fact in which I think oftentimes it's very inauthentic, in the fact that people will often ignore very valid critiques that someone might have on the party because of, again, their background, kind of like what you were saying about we're not racist because we have a black president.
Yeah.
I would just say that identity politics is not something owned by the Democrats or the Republicans. Identity politics is everywhere.
Right.
And again, people have prejudices. And they, hear a certain word, and like you said, they might say, no, oh, no, I'm fine, because look, I voted for a black man, but they might still have that prejudice.
Yeah.
And just to tell you, I'm someone who, I have a family, I'm proud to say I have 2 kids who are married, 2 Jewish kids who are married to Muslims. And one of the things that we've learned is the things that we share. And we try and, we're very proud of that. And they've raised wonderful families.
Jewish kids, you're a traitor. That's what she said. Let me rewind.
Hey, I have 2 kids who are married, 2 Jewish kids who are married to Muslims. And one of the things that we've learned is the things that we share. And
she's like, how dare you have Jewish kids? Get rid of them right now. Abort them.
Try and, we're very proud of that. And they've raised wonderful families. And that's out there. You just have to choose it.
And I'm curious, how do you feel like that's kind of shaped your lens on this topic in particular, whether it's identity politics, but also just politics in general? Do you feel like having a blended family made you more progressive, or were you already progressive? And
no, I was already there, because I basically said to my kids, you can be whatever you want to be. I don't care if you're a bricklayer or a president or a candy vendor, whatever makes you happy.
So I just want to say one thing. Malcolm X said the Democrats and Republicans are like wolves versus.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Oh, I just don't like her. I don't like her at all. Her everything she says is so predictable. She's so predictable. She doesn't help the political project at all. Malcolm X said Democrats and Republicans are the same people, so they both fucking suck. Oh my God, they're both evil. They're both the problem. We should get rid of both of them. Oh my God, they're morally corrupt. Oh my goodness. Democrats and Republicans are the same. There's no difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, which is why I actually didn't vote for Kamala Harris, even though Donald Trump won and made it even worse for Palestinians. Oh my God, I'm a Hassan Piker fan. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Shut up. She just keeps talking. She just doesn't stop talking.
The foxes, okay? So when you're talking to a Republican, they will openly be like, sometimes they'll be like, sometimes with Democrats, can't be racist. We want to be the good police place. And
Republicans have a problem with that. It's mostly white men.
She has said nothing. She hasn't said a single word this entire video, and I've been watching the entire thing. She said nothing. Why is she here?
And
White men,
so,
older white men.
older white men. So they don't really have a problem with identity politics because they're one race.
Right, it's not an issue for them.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
I think the whole concept of identity politics is bullshit. It's the same thing as using woke as some kind of cudgel to make you feel funny because you have an affiliation by race, by gender, by what's the other stuff we got, y'all? Religion. It's all bullshit. The Republican Party has built this MAGA base on identity, on white male fraught identity.
And that's not good, right? It's not good.
Things wrong for white males. And so my thing is Democrats need to adhere to the identity that we know them to be for in this current iteration. The identity of helping the middle class to get back to be a middle class, helping.
Okay, she's on my side. The only identity I care about is class. Other than class, I don't care. And I don't think it's the same. It's not a characteristic. Class is just not the same. It's just not the same, which is why I think using class would not be under the same principle of identity politics. Could I break it down? If someone asked, I would break it down for them, but I think we understand what I'm talking about.
To have a safety net for the downtrodden.
I think what's happening is it's not that the problem is that we have these different identities and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's that I can't get anything done if you believe something and I don't believe in that. So I don't want to support you as a politician or as in the Democratic Party. So it is absolutely dividing us.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, because I believe it was you who said it, when you're like, MAGA, you think of the right, like their identity is very much like this white male
playing it like a fiddle.
Exactly. But I think because they have this
it's not just white though, and I hate to interrupt you. Even though it is all white for the most part, no matter what it is, they stay together.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you.
They move together. So we are divided. We're like, yeah, I don't believe in this, so I can't support you. And it's like, wait a minute, we're not going to take power back if we don't say, okay, I don't believe in it, but I've got to support you. Right. I've got to support you, or it's going to be them.
He's right.
He's absolutely right. And that is one of the biggest problems going on with the Democratic Party. We're not unifying especially, it's crazy that MAGA creates false demons to exercise. It is one of Satan's best tricks, right? He makes you believe that there are certain enemies that do not exist. He points you in the direction to call out everybody else. In reality, the demons are the ones that are the demons are the other side. The demons that exist right now that have all the power is right in front of us. So aren't we supposed to all work together at this time? It's crazy how much, I guess a demon is more effective in creating the imagery and illusion of a demon, right? I don't know. Democrats are constantly divided with the aspect that if you don't advocate what I advocate for, then you can go to hell, even though the other person's going to ruin the country even way worse than you by like tenfold. But when you have like a mindset like that one girl where it's like, oh, you guys are the same people, then you're the problem. You're absolutely problem. In every retrospect, you are the fucking problem.
He's right, because identity politics has been used to do what? A purity test.
Yes.
Someone may agree with a candidate like 90% of the issues, but because of this 10%, that's really important to me. I'm just going to throw out the other 90%, and that's dividing the Democratic Party.
So then how do you think we can kind of fix that division? Do you think there's going to be like a unicorn candidate who will come out and appeal to everyone, or
no.
What does that look like?
I think that's the thing that will, I mean, look at Obama. I would argue that Democrats were most united under Obama in Congress. We need a candidate.
I would agree. Obama, very united under John F. Kennedy as well.
That can unite the Democratic Party. We are so divided now, and especially, let's take the government shutdown, for example. 8 senators bent their knee to Donald Trump, right, over the weekend.
But it was
that just 8. Shows us.
It was only 8.
And those 8 need to be primaried.
They do. I agree with you.
Right.
But we need to look at the fact that the rest of the 24 or 32 were united.
Sure, but that's still 8 Democrats that weren't. That could be 8, and 8 is a large number when you have a minority.
I do think that a lot of Democrats do weaponize identity politics, but it is not my personal belief that identity politics are necessarily bad.
Right, and that's why that wasn't the prompt. That is bad.
Yeah. That's why it was hard.
Familiar with like W.B. Du Bois, like his theory of double consciousness.
He reads. I still think identity politics is a net negative, but the identity of classism, I do think, is the only valid way to use it, and I just stand by that.
I feel like it all kind of ties into that idea, right? Basically, from that theory, he speaks on the idea of the existence of a black man in America, or just a black person in America, is to see yourself A, as the Negro, but then B, to see yourself as an American, right? And I feel like specifically on this topic, it's very pointed because you almost have to sacrifice a level of identity within yourself for the game of the political benefit of the party to a certain extent.
No, I just don't agree to that. Maybe I'm just not representative. Maybe I'm just not a good representative black person. But I have no interest in sacrificing my identity to be in this kind of political space. I just have no interest in it. I'm very confident on my identity and like who I am as an individual. But at the same time, maybe I'm just not a representative sample. Maybe there's others that have to sacrifice it. It's definitely a problematic thing that's happened throughout like even recent American history, right? The issues with like certain black women couldn't wear their hair a certain way, or certain black people wouldn't get jobs because of their names. Like understandable by every metric for sure. The part that I disagree with is not the idea that it didn't exist and it doesn't exist. The part I disagree with is it is impossible to succeed despite this existence. I think it is possible for me to not sacrifice any part of my identity. Code switching, I don't think is sacrificing an identity. It's just knowing the environment you're in. But I think it's possible to live in this kind of space without sacrificing your identity.
And that's why I feel like it's divisive in that sense, because if I vote on things purely from the perspective of how does this make me feel as a black man, how is this impacting my community, how do I see myself because of it, it will almost be against my own larger interest, even if it might be against some of my own personal or like racialized beliefs, which is a very interesting line to balance. Personally, I'm very for identity politics. I think, like you were saying, that level of acknowledgement is the most important thing we have. How can you feel represented if you are not seen as an individual? But I do then think from a party standpoint, when we purely think about the strategy or the game of politics, whether or not you want to say it's good or bad, the reason why the party isn't doing as well as it can is because we are having a lot of internal conflicts. I don't think anyone argues with a Democrat more than a Democrat, which is a good thing. I think fundamentally will be a very good thing for progress itself. But based on the prompt and based off the game of politics, I do think it's a bit counterintuitive. Exactly.
Freedom of speech.
But very thought-provoking points. He thought these things through, which I respect. Freedom of speech should include uncomfortable and offensive opinions. I don't really care about this prompt. Overall, I liked it. I thought this was a good Jubilee, other than this girl. But even though she brought some entertainment with her like unhingedness, and it helps that she's very pretty. When you're pretty, you can get away with a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I think she does know her stuff. She's just one of those very passionate leftists that don't leave room for anybody else, which is unfortunate. It's just the typical Hassan Piker type mentality where everybody else is evil. It doesn't help. You don't win elections. You don't really reach out to people. You don't really create solutions or compromise. You just call everybody else bad. It's unfortunate. That's all I got for this. I'm gonna take a little bathroom break, and then we're going to go to the next video. Let me start up the YouTube real quick. I think the Seahawks are kind of blowing out the 49ers right now. Oh, we're going to have a Seahawks Super Bowl, are we? Are we going to have a Seahawks-Broncos rematch? Ew. Sam Darnold versus Bo Nix? Ew. It's disgusting.